What up, y'all? All rights reserved. All rights reserved. This is the Tommy Cole Show. Hey, this isn't going to be a long one. I just wanted to tap into some very interesting tidbits I thought were very, very interesting, very American, as I call it. Um, the Jimmy Carter Barry Gordy connection. I did not know about that until I was watching Instagram the other day, and they were this sister I'm about to play this video was talking about the connections, and I'm gonna just post up some pictures and get into that conversation. So let's check this video out real quick, and then I'll get back with y'all. Check this out. Hold on. This is my old laptop. My old laptop be acting up.
On this New York Times article that breaks it down. President Carter's great grandfather, James Thomas Gordy, was married, but he also had an enslaved woman, Esther Johnson. So he had kids with his wife, and he had a kid with Miss Esther Johnson. The child that he had with Miss Esther Johnson, the enslaved woman, was Barry Gordy, the first Barry Gordy. Okay, so he also had kids with his wife, and from those kids came Lillian Gordy, who is President Carter's mother. Okay, so again, James Thomas Gordy has a child with an enslaved woman, Miss Esther Johnson. That child is Barry Gordy Sr. Barry Gordy Sr. has a child, Barry Gordy Jr., known as Pops. Barry Gordy Jr. has Barry Gordy III, that we know as Motown. James Thomas Gordy also has a wife. They have their children. One of those children has Lillian Gordy. Lillian Gordy has President Carter. So Barry Gordy, President Carter have the same grandfather. So according to this article, Jeff Carter, President Carter's son, discovers all this and asks President Carter, hey, you know about this? To which President Carter says, yeah, it's no secret. We know. That is the connection between President Jimmy Carter and Motown's Barry Gordy. This question came from the story I did on Miss Rachel Clark. You can watch that one. It's the reel right before this one. Thanks, y'all. Peace. I did not know about this. I had to.
Well, I appreciate the
damn President Carter. I did not know.
Not that unusual to
great grandfather James Thomas Gordy was married, but he also had an enslaved.
All right. Now, anybody who really knows any history about America already knows that most black folks and most white folks is cousins. All right. Like if you American, as you call it, and you claim that your people been here for a minute, then you should already know there's no pure white people here and there's no pure black people here in America. Everybody is kin, because if they really teach you the real history of America, you will understand that the slave trade did not bring that many boats over here. A lot of black people, so-called black, because I really don't even prefer to use that terminology. Black is a political term that was popularized in the 1960s during the Black conscious civil rights movement. And before that, we were called colored or Negro. And a lot of times just called indigenous. Sometimes you would call mulatto or octoroon or quadroon based on how much black you had in you or white you had in you. A lot of people who were very, very light skinned, especially in the deep South, if you were mixed, which was quite the most common thing, is what I'm trying to tell you. When they did a census in like the late 1700s, let's just use Georgia, for example. In the state of Georgia, let's say they brought maximally, let's see, if they did a census of 125,000 people. That's about as many so-called Africans came from Africa from the slave trade, period. 125,000. That's it. Okay, only 4% of the boats came to America, United States, period. 125,000. That's it. They didn't bring no more boats over. They stopped bringing boats over in the late 1700s. Okay, so fuck what you heard. I know my shit because I did a whole 20-page paper on it when I took this history of slavery class. But anyway, the rest of the ships, so only 4% of boats, if any, came from Africa during that whole transatlantic slave trade. And they came through Virginia and North and South Carolina. Okay. Now, what I learned when I lived in Louisiana is Louisiana was considered a different country back then, right? Texas was also kind of considered a different country. Like Louisiana was ran by the Spanish, and then they was ran by the French. And most of them people, they would say they came from, you know, what we call Haiti now, right? People don't even understand the Dominican Republic. You know how a lot of people be like, I'm from the Dominican, I'm not black. Dominican Republic and Haiti share the same goddamn island. Okay, they just split it in half. One was Spanish speaking, the other was French speaking, but they all black. They just be mixed, or as in Louisiana, they call them Creole, right? It's just all these names they put to just try to distinguish one from the other, but everybody at the end of the day had a lot of the same roots. But anyway, this is a picture of Lillian Carter. This is Jimmy Carter's mother. Now, I'll tell you this, they've had colored pictures since the 1920s and 1930s, but a lot of times historians or media people kept a lot of images in black and white because you couldn't really tell how light or dark a so-called white person was at the time. I will tell you, the people we call in white came through that whole industrial time in the late 1800s when they needed people to work in the factories. So they recruited people from a lot of Jewish people from Poland, a lot of Russians, a lot of Italians. Okay. And that was in the late 1800s. They ain't the original white folk that came here in the 1600s and 1700s. Why? Because most of them motherfuckers was mixed. That's what I'm telling you. They was mixed with black. So as I was saying, they stopped bringing slave ships over. They only brought them over like through the course of maybe a whole generation, which would be like 20 years. I learned that in political science. A generation is called 20 years. If you hear any paper, I'm rolling me something while I'm talking about this shit. But anyways, and they stopped bringing ships over because they was like, wait. We got way too many black people over here. We ain't got as many white people. So it'd be like 4 times as many black people as white people at one point in the late 1700s in America, in the United States. Okay. So they didn't want to bring no more black people over here because there was way too many already over here. Okay. Learn your history. So in that, over the course of one generation, that's 20 years, let's say from 1769 to 1789, 20 years, they did a census and they learned that everybody on all these plantations in the South doubled the amount of people they had. And they were like, why is that happening? Well, we know why that was happening. Everybody was fucking. Everybody was having a sexy, sexy time. All right. Now, Lillian Carter, as they claim, is not the daughter of the child that is Berry Gordy's grandpeople. She is directly, supposedly, the daughter of the other wife that the Gordy man had. He had Carter. Well, no, Gordy. He had multiple families. Hold on. Let me see if I can get that imagery cracking. Let me see if I can get that going. Let's see. Let me share this tab so y'all can see something. It says Jimmy Carter and Berry Gordy are second. They call it half cousins, but second cousins. They share a great-grandfather, James Thomas Gordy, who was a Georgia plantation owner and the son of a white farmer and an enslaved woman. Well, she had a name, okay? I don't know why they're trying to play. Let me see if I can click on that. Well, I did some research and I found the name of the enslaved woman and all that. Okay, how they met. Gordy and Carter discussed their shared ancestry at a Democratic fundraiser in 1980. They began calling each other cuz after that. They already knew they was cousins. Let's just keep that a buck. Okay, Jimmy Carter always hung out with black people. Matter of fact, the black people that lived next door to Jimmy Carter and his mama and them was really his auntie and uncle. I had pictures and everything. Let me see if I can. I had a whole bunch of pictures. Jimmy Carter, and he actually called one of the names of his neighbor in one of his speeches. He mentioned Auntie so and so. I can't think of her name right now. Jimmy Carter's neighbor. Let me see if I could find a picture of a video, because they used to have this information. He didn't call them his aunties and all that.
Is your HVAC business
But
cooling down?
his relatives, like everybody who has family who lived in the South knows that there's a black this and a white that. Even in my family, okay, we have like a family that has the Irish last name, right? Let me see.
Must have been like to live next door to the Carter family during the 1976 presidential run. Well, a photojournalist at our sister station in Dallas, Texas knows. His name is John Nan, and he was their neighbor in Plains, describing the profound impact their families had on one another.
They came over, and they were the first people to really welcome us to Plains, and in fact invited us over to them.
But that's good to know. To me, Jimmy Carter was like the best president aside from Roosevelt in the 1930s and 40s to me. Okay, let me see. Let me see Jimmy Carter. Let me see if I could put in black neighbors. But as I was saying, so my grandmother, right? So my grandmother allegedly is mixed or whatever, right? My great grandmother was Indian and black. My great grandfather was white, so they say, right? And that's pretty much the standard black American. That's pretty much the standard black American mixture, okay? And white American mixture. That's what I'm trying to tell you. A lot of times people be claiming that they white, but they really don't even know that they really mixed. They really got a great grandmother back in the day that was part of that family. You know what I'm saying? And they keep everything black and white. There was this thing called passe blanc, you know, which means white passing, which if you were so watered down in your blackness, you would go on and just claim white. You know what I mean? And sometimes you would move up north so you could pass, you know, you keep that white makeup on. Max Factor, the famous makeup artist in Hollywood, there was so many actresses and actors that was passing for white in Hollywood. And, you know, I did a whole podcast on who was passing in Hollywood, honey. I need to do a part 2 of that. That Max Factor actually created a color, a foundation called Passe Blanc or something like that, because he created a foundation that would make these mixed passing black women look more white. But anyways, Lillian Carter. Now the joke was, when Jimmy Carter was president, a lot of times they would make fun of Jimmy Carter and call him the peanut president and all this, because he was very grounded. Jimmy Carter was very grounded. He kept his roots very close to his small little rural town in Georgia, and he still kept his Southern accent. I know Bill Clinton had a bit of a Southern accent too, but Carter really is like. And let me tell you, when I lived in Shreveport, Louisiana, I went to go see Jimmy Carter actually speak. At 91 years old, he still made all the sense in the world. I enjoyed watching Jimmy Carter speak. He was so wise and he made all logical sense. Go on and put that out for me. Where's that Palo Santo right there? Don't you see where the smoke is coming from? No, right there in front of the neti pot. You don't see smoke? You see? Anyways, I'm gonna press play on this video and let y'all see what they talking about on here. This is all rights reserved, useful charge. Check this out.
The family tree of the Gordy dynasty, one of the most influential families in U.S. history. If you don't immediately recognize the name Gordy, you will certainly recognize the names of many people connected to their tree, such as Michael Jackson, Beyonce, the guys from LMFAO, and President Jimmy Carter. But the central figure on this family tree is a man named Berry Gordy III. He founded Motown Records in 1959, and from there built a music empire that continues to have a major impact on pop music and culture around the world today. Like most Black American families, the Gordy family's story has its roots in the story of American slavery. This tree begins with Esther Johnson, an enslaved teenager of African descent in Georgia. When she was around 14 years old, a white man named James T. Gordy impregnated her. Even without knowing any further details, we can certainly say that what Gordy did to Esther Johnson was wrong. Esther's child, who was named Barry, grew up, became a free man, and married a woman named Lucy Hellam. Together, they had a child who became Berry Gordy II. In 1922, Barry II and his wife Bertha decided to move to Detroit, Michigan, in part because the South was still an extremely dangerous place for Black people at the time. The KKK was at its peak, and lynchings were all too common. Barry and Bertha were gifted entrepreneurs. In Detroit, they established several businesses, including a construction firm, a grocery store, a print shop, and a life insurance company. Together,
let me just join in and say the Gordy family up in Detroit they was killing the game. They were such great business folk. Berry Gordy II, I was surprised when I saw Mr. Gordy. When I saw Berry Gordy's dad, Berry Gordy Jr., I was surprised that he was so light skinned. He really was a passe blanc if he wanted to be. He looked like a white man. If you can't really tell in this picture. So if you know Berry Jr. was looking like that, and he was already married to Miss Lucy, imagine Berry Gordy I looking like that. And he was considered a free man down in the South. He was free. He was not enslaved. He was born in 1854, but his father was a respected slave owner in the time. So he let his son be free. He set his son free.
Together, they had 4 sons and 4 daughters, most of whom initially worked in the various family businesses. But their second youngest son, Berry Gordy III, had other interests. He became a professional boxer for several years and then served during the Korean War, working as a chaplain's assistant and playing the organ during the troops' church services. When he returned home, he married Thelma Coleman and opened a record store. That didn't pan out though, so instead, he started writing and producing songs for several up-and-coming R&B artists, including a group called The Miracles, whose lead singer was Smokey Robinson. Then, in 1959, he made the most important decision of his life. He founded Motown Records, although originally it was named as Tamla Records. He did this by borrowing money from his sister Esther, who managed the family's savings fund. It was a great decision because during the 1960s, Motown ended up becoming one of the most successful record companies that America had ever seen. Here are just some of the artists who signed with Motown.
Pause. Now, do you think him being connected to the Carters had any help with that? Now, we know Jimmy Carter wasn't known like that back then. I mean, he did local community work and all that, but do you guys think out there that him being connected to Jimmy Carter back then had any help, or had any bearing on his success with his major corporation? All about it, in the name of love. You really gotta hold on.
Check this out. I'm going to show you how I afforded this car.
These stupid commercials.
Okay, you ready?
My nerves.
All right, $118.
So now that you get a sense
Keep
of the
watching.
Gordy family's connections to the music industry, let's return to the family tree and look at it in more detail. All of Barry's siblings eventually ended up working for Motown in one way or another, either as executives or songwriters or both. His eldest brother's daughter, Iris, ended up serving as a top executive as well. Two of Barry's sisters ended up marrying Motown artists. Anna married Marvin Gaye, who was known as the Prince of Soul, and Gwen married Harvey Fuqua, founder of the Moonglows. While married to Anna Gordy, Marvin Gaye conceived a child with Denise Gordy. Denise was the daughter of Anna's brother, George. At the time, Anna faked a pregnancy, and the child, known as Marvin Gaye III, grew up believing that Anna was his biological mother. Marvin Gaye was shot and killed in 1984 by his father, Marvin Gaye I, following a physical altercation between the two men. Marvin Gaye III did not learn who his real mother was until many years after his father's death. Denise Gordy married actor Richard Lawson, and together they had a daughter named Bianca, who, like her...
Hold on. I just want to say, hold on. I don't think I'm unmuted. Hold on. I just want to say for the record, the extra T, because they was messy as hell, y'all, is that Denise Gordy, she was 15. She was 15 years old when she got pregnant with Marvin Gaye III. And it was allegedly Marvin Gaye's child, okay? Yeah, that was the scandal. He was married to Anna, and he got with her little niece, Denise. Also, side note, she married Richard Lawson and had Bianca Lawson. Richard Lawson is the same one that was married to Beyonce's mom. But I'll let them tell the story. All right, let's go.
Father went into acting. Eventually, Richard and Denise divorced, and in 2015, Richard married Tina Knowles, mother of Beyonce and Solange Knowles. So these two well-known women in the music industry are now the stepsisters of Gordy descendant Bianca Lawson. Okay, so now let's look at the children of Berry Gordy.
Sorry, it take me a minute to unmute. You know, that's what trips me out, because I've seen Bianca Lawson throughout the years and I've admired her as an actress. And you be wondering why you can't get in the game and why you can't get the parts and shit. And you don't be even knowing these motherfuckers be all related. You feel me? Like they all be motherfucking cousins and shit. Cousins to celebrities, cousins to presidents, cousins to like noted famous people, but they be having all different last names. So you don't even be knowing the reason you ain't get the part ain't because you're not a good actress, but you're not Bianca Lawson, who is Berry Gordy's niece, who's Marvin Gaye's stepdaughter. You know what I'm saying? But you're not even knowing that. It's a dirty game. But that's it. That's nepotism. And it's not just the Gordys. That's like everything in Hollywood. Everything in Hollywood is based off nepotism, who you know and how you know them, not just who you know. Because I knew a lot of celebrity kids when I was growing up, but, you know, I didn't know all the details of all the politics that went into, you know, being a kid actor back then. Let's see what y'all talking about. This pretty much reveals everything. Either you family or you sacrificing. You feel me? Thank you for saying that, Bomber League. That's true. Latasha, would you say, hey, thank you again? Oh, thank you, Latasha. You're so sweet. But yeah, they knew they were cousins. It's not no shock. They all knew. Jimmy Carter and Berry Gordy knew since they was children. Since Berry was a child, he knew who his cousins was and all that. Now, when Jimmy Carter became president, of course, they had to clean it up. They didn't want you knowing Lillian, his mama, was, you know, octoroon passing. You know, they didn't want you to know Jimmy Carter mama was like 1/4 or, you know, Mariah Carey, you know what I'm saying? Actually, no, Lillian Carter was way less black than Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey's mixed, half and half. But a lot of these white folk, or so-called white adjacent or claiming white, a lot of times, like I was telling some of my students, especially if you're from Louisiana or somewhere, you better quit playing. Like you go back a few generations, you find out who your peoples was. Like I had a student in my class the other day and he was saying he was El Salvadorian. And I forget how it came up, but I was like, you better, yeah. I was like, my first boyfriend in high school was El Salvadorian, and his mama had the nerve not to like me because I was so called black, but she was darker than me and she had nappy hair. And a lot of times they be putting perms in their hair to make it straight. Indians too, from East India, they be claiming whatever they claim, but they be having nappy ass hair too. It's all crazy. It's all crazy. It's all crazy. But yeah, it's not by coincidence Berry Gordy was successful with his career and his music stuff. I'm never taking nothing from him. He was a hard worker, but that whole keep it in the family, that's where Diddy, the diddler, got this from. Like, allegedly, they claiming he set Faith up to marry Biggie, and he set Rihanna and Chris Brown together. He set up Nipsey with Lauren London. He set up who was it? Because Little Kim and Biggie was messing around, but really, and then he had his baby mama Tiana, or I forget the baby mama name, but he made Faith Evans and Biggie get married. That's what I was told. And he just was trying to keep all that money in the game and keep everybody connected. This is some old Berry Gordy tactics. Berry Gordy and everybody was damn near incestuous. They weren't related, but they definitely kept the Motown machine cracking by having everybody marry each other. Like Jermaine ended up marrying his daughter Hazel. A lot of people inside of the business married each other, which I get. Like, if you're working with people every day, everybody's young and talented and beautiful. I get it. Okay. But it ain't by accident either. It's just not. Okay. So let me keep going. I didn't even show. Okay. Let's get back to the show. Let's get back to it. All right.
Member of the Jackson Five, and thus a brother. Okay, so now let's look at the children of Berry Gordy. With his first wife, Thelma, he had 3 children. His eldest daughter, Hazel, married Jermaine Jackson, a member of the Jackson Five, and thus a brother of the late Michael Jackson. With his second wife, Ray Singleton, Berry had a son named Carey. In the late 1970s, Carey was part of a band known as Apollo with his friend Benny Medina. Benny Medina grew up in a poor inner-city setting, but ended up moving to Bel Air to live in a mansion with his rich friend Carey. Sound familiar? That's because Benny later helped create the TV show The Fresh Prince of Bel Air, which was loosely based on his own life. The rest of Berry Gordy's children came from various other relationships he had over the years. One of these children was Kennedy Gordy, better known by his stage name Rockwell. He had a hit in the 1980s. Berry also had a relationship with Diana Ross of the Supremes, and together they had a daughter named Rhonda Ross. However, Diana Ross was married to Robert Silberstein at the time, and therefore Rhonda grew up as Rhonda Silberstein, only discovering who her biological father was at age 13. She married jazz musician Rodney Kendrick and is herself both a musician and actress. Finally, I want to point out Berry's youngest child, Stefan Gordy, who is better known by his stage name Red Foo. Together with his nephew Skylar, son of Berry Gordy IV, he formed the duo LMFAO.
Now, he looks like the great-grandfather.
If you've been injured in a car accident, don't call an attorney. Use this AI app instead. That's what I did, and
Okay, now what about that? Finally, I want to point out Berry's youngest child, Stefan Gordy. who is better known by his stage name Red Foo,
Wait a minute,
together with his nephew Skylar, son of...
Hold on. I don't know if y'all heard anything I just said, but what I was saying was Red Foo and then the other little son from Berry Gordy the fourth, they look like their grandfather, which was Berry Gordy's father, Berry the Jr. He looks like his grandfather. They look like Berry Gordy the third. Their genes is very powerful. They got some strong genes. If you ever look at Rhonda, everybody knew Rhonda was Berry Gordy's child. She even did a song called Love Child. We all knew that Diana was pregnant with Berry Gordy's child, but it was such a scandal back then because he was married. She wasn't married to Silverstein yet. She got married while she was pregnant, unbeknownst to everybody. That's Tracy Ellis' dad and Chudney's dad. But anyway, back to the show. I mean, it's a soap opera scandal, but they all human,
Berry Gordy the fourth, he formed the duo LMFAO.
They look like his grandpa.
Okay, now what about that link to President Jimmy Carter that I mentioned earlier? Well, the maiden name of Jimmy Carter's mother was Gordy. She, like Berry Gordy II, was a grandchild of James T. Gordy. Lily's father was James Jackson Gordy, son of James T. and his wife Harriet. So that makes James Jackson and Berry I half brothers, Lily and Berry II first cousins, and President Carter and Motown founder Berry Gordy III second cousins. That's a pretty close relationship. Which brings me to one final point that I'd like to make. In most Black American family trees, there's a white ancestor in there somewhere for non-consensual reasons. This is why when I did my video on the fact that all people with at least some European blood are the descendants of royalty, I said that this applies to people of color as well. The flip side of this is that in many white American family trees, at least the ones that go back to colonial times, you're probably going to find branches that lead to Black American families, meaning that a lot of white Americans have some distant Black cousins, and a lot of Black Americans have some distant white cousins. So one way or another, we are all connected. But because of the power imbalances that existed in the past, some of us have reached the present with far more privilege than others. While those of us who are white can't change the actions of our ancestors in the past, we can take positive action in the present to help build a better future for everybody. Before I go, I want to give a big shout out to Oris Jenkins for suggesting this topic and for helping me put the chart together. Like many of the individuals we've talked about today, Oris is a musician, and you can check out his music by following the link in the description. Thanks for watching.
I thought that was very interesting because once I started learning about forensics, like I teach forensics to my students to a little degree, my little 8th graders. And I talk about how if you really tap into, okay, so we had to read this book called Written in Bone, right? And it talks about how, there's a need for more forensic scientists in this country. Like, so they really want us to promote forensic science to the youth, right? So while we were reading the book Written in Bone, which is basically the story of how anthropologists or forensic scientists go into Boston specifically, and they dig up these old graves. They dig up these coffins because they want to find out how people lived during colonial times. And when we say colonial times, if you remember anything about 8th grade social studies, you learned about the 13 colonies and all that. And what I learned about the 13 colonies when I used to teach social studies is that most of them was mixed. Most people, when the Dutch came over, they were screwing on them Indian folk. And when the British came over, they were screwing on the Black folks and the Indians and everybody. Like they had so many mixed people that they passed a law called the miscegenation law, where they made it illegal for people to keep screwing each other from different races, because the governor of Virginia was like, hold up, it's only like 20% white in the Virginia. It's got to change. It's dangerous. They didn't have slavery officially yet for just black people. It was all people. Everybody was slaves. But I know in the history books, they call the white people that were slaves, they called them indentured servants, but they were slaves. They were not called indentured servants, except in the very beginning. But as soon as the white British poor people came off the boats, they were slaves. Now they don't like to look at it like that, because it was supposed to only be for 20 years or 10 years or 30 years, whatever the agreement was. But they were indeed treated like shit. Okay, so it wasn't just white black people treated like shit. It was like rich black people back then that had slaves, and they had rich, everybody, rich, poor whites, poor blacks, poor Indians. If you didn't have the money, you was a slave, or you were a, like a working and, person. But it's just a lot they're not teaching about the real history of stuff. But anyway, the governor of Virginia was annoyed. Like, I mean, it was either you was with a white person with a black woman with a white man with a Indian woman, it was all that. Same like how it is today. Las Vegas. I'll just throw out Las Vegas because everybody and their mama is mixed here. You either mix with Hawaiian and black, or Filipino and black, or white and Indian, or it's all kinds of mixtures out here. But they were like, the governor of Virginia was trying to preserve the British, the white, whatever. So he passed a law called the Miscegenation Act, which stayed on the books till 1965, y'all, to the 60s, the 1960s. And so he kicked all the mixed people out. He kicked all the mixed couples out of Virginia, and that created West Virginia. Now, they didn't go west for real back then, because, those states weren't even found yet, allegedly. They went further south, but they called it West back then. And so West Virginia was originally created specifically to get rid of all the black, Indian, and white people that was loving on each other. And they had all these mixed children. Yeah, a lot of them. Because when all these folks dug up these graves in the past 10 years or 15 years or so in Boston, they're seeing that most of these folks was mixed heritage, of directly black and directly white. We was loving on each other. Yeah, everybody been screwing on each other. It's not new. It's just that, when some people was on some old, whatever that governor was on, then, they started making only black people slaves and stuff. We didn't all come over here originally as the original, hey, only black people gonna be slaves. Matter of fact, there's a really good book you can read. I recommend. I just rebought it. It was what I read in Black Studies 101. It's called Before the Mayflower. So if you can go check that book out, it's called Before the Mayflower by Lerone Bennett Jr. And he talks about how the first so-called indigenous, the first Africans came off them boats in 1609, which was 10 years before the British white folk come over here in 1619. They always talk about, we came in 1619. Well, black folks was off them boats in 1609. And even before that, of course, we know that, right? But just for the sake of the whatever, I'm just going to say 1609, Before the Mayflower. Go check that book out. That gives intricate detail about how really everybody was humping on everybody, and everybody was mixed. Quit playing. Everybody was walking around like Halle Berry or Jasmine Guy, you know what I'm saying? Or Timok from the fucking, what's the name of that movie? Last Dragon. Everybody was over here. You got that glow, that feel, that vibe. So just like what's happening now, they had what they called the third generation rule, because they knew if you were white and you got with a black person and that person became mixed. Let's use Thomas Jefferson, for example. Thomas Jefferson, let me show you an image of him. Thomas Jefferson was, married to a woman named Martha, right? Thomas Jefferson. Let me type this in real quick. Hold on, son. I'm twisting my son's hair. Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings. Y'all know this story by now, but I'm gonna just present it just for the sake of, as a part of American history. Thomas Jefferson had a whole separate family. Like he had his wife Martha. Yeah, Bruce Leroy. Woo woo woo. I love Tamok. I've actually worked with him before, and he's just the sweetest dude. He is so sweet. But anyway, let me go right here. So one time on the Oprah Winfrey Show, for anybody who remembers the Oprah Winfrey Show, she had the black Jeffersons and the white Jeffersons on her show, and they had never met, allegedly, right? Radon Chong, right? Everybody was Radon Chong around this mug, Patrick. Can you imagine? You were either black and Indian or black and white. Really, that's really what was happening. It was not that common for white on white love like that. Like people was just doing their thizzle. You feel me? But anyway, Thomas Jefferson married Martha, but Martha brought with her 14-year-old sister, Sally. But she didn't acknowledge her as her sister that much because she was her slave. They had the same father, though. So Thomas Jefferson really wanted to holler at Sally, but politics was saying no, he couldn't do that. So, but he did. He made 7 children with Sally, though. Look, you see the pictures? Sally was popping. And look, when Thomas Jefferson went to Paris, did he bring Martha? Hell no. He took Sally, yeah, who was a teenager at the time. And he reasoned and justified it by saying, he needed some slave help, but he didn't need to bring no woman, you feel me? And he brought Sally's brother. Sally's brother was the one who invented oven-baked mac and cheese, just as a complete side note. I just thought I'd mention that. We know how we make that oven-baked mac and cheese. Yeah, her brother, he went to school to be a chef. So what happened was, this is what they also don't tell you in just regular fucking history. There were a lot of mixed slaves, enslaved people, lots. By that second generation, over half the slave population was mixed. It doubled, and they were all mixed. This was in the late 1700s, okay? So what they did a lot of times was they would send them to France. They would send their mixed children to Paris, France, so they could live a free life, a free society. Because, Paris was one of the first places to end slavery. They didn't have slavery for a super long time because everybody was mixed. It's kind of like, what you going to do? You can't tell who's who and what's what. And that's why the running joke, even to this day, about so-called white people from France, they got black in their background. They got a little spice to them, a little joie de vivre, you know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, Louisiana, when they moved, when the country of Louisiana was ran by France, they had a whole culture of Creole people, mixing in with the white folk. So much to the point where they had the so-called enslaved woman who was mixed, wear what they call a chignon. They had a chignon law where the mixed girl couldn't wear her hair out. She had to wear a scarf just so you could tell the difference between her and a so-called white woman. Yeah, that's how mixed everybody was. But a lot of mixed people down in Louisiana, they just went on and did passe blanc, which is white passing in French, which they would just move up north and just go on and claim they was something else. You know what I'm saying? And they do that to this day, people be passe blanc. Now, y'all, if you've ever watched any of my other podcasts, especially the ones I had on Instagram, and I really need to do a new one, I did a whole series of lists of people who are passing. Now, Steven Tyler is one of them. Now, they recently had him on that show. What's that DNA show where they do your, test your blood and all that shit, and find out who you is and who you ain't? Well, I already knew that Steven Tyler already knew that his grandmother was mixed, but just for the sake of the show, Liv Tyler, his daughter, they claim that they just learned that their great great grandmother was mixed. And it's like, no, it wasn't his great grandmother. That's a lie. It was his granny. I've seen pictures of her. But, Steven Tyler, he was trying to get into the rock and roll game. So he didn't want everybody knowing that his granny, his literal grandmother, was black as me. You know what I mean? Not that it matters. It doesn't. There's a lot of rock folks that's black, though. About Slash at this point. Slash, his mama is black. Slash is black. Let's just keep that real. His mama, chocolate as hell. Okay, look just like a beautiful candy bar. Slash is completely mixed. His daddy, there she is, Ola Hudson. Yeah, that's his mama. But when he was out, nobody cared. Nobody really paid attention to the fact that Slash's mama was black. He wasn't putting it on blast, but he wasn't like not saying he wasn't. He just never brought it up. People just assumed he wasn't black because he was into rock. You know what I mean? But most rock dudes that are of any substance, you will learn, are actually mixed. Okay. And the whole foundation of rock and roll is black people anyway, you know, if you keep it really real. His mama was a popular model in the late 60s, early 70s. Okay. So yeah, that's Slash's mama. Everybody knew Slash was mixed, but the public didn't know Slash was mixed. Also, let me show you another one. What's dude that was married to Ashley Simpson's ex-husband? No, she is married to Diana Ross's son right now. Ashley Simpson is literally married to Diana Ross's son right now. But her first husband was also black, but he was passing too. And he's a popular ex-husband. Let me see if I could get him up on here. He also was black passing. Yes, him. Homeboy from, what's that rock group? He black too. His mama straight up Blizzak. Hold up. Where is it at? What is the name of that group he was in? Yeah, him. What's his name? Oh my God. We're going to get his name. Hold on. Let me get his name. And it's like, who cares? But I do, because people be lying. And people be thinking white is real. White is just a political term. Pete Wentz, that's his name. Let me find him. Pete Wentz mama is straight Blizzak, but his daddy is white. And you will learn that a lot of people in this industry are mixed. I mean, you see them growing up, and they black dudes married a lot of white women, and a lot of white men. This is what they don't tell you. A lot of white Jewish men are married to black women in the music and television and film industry. They just don't promote. You don't know that, but they are. I know this because I'm in the industry and I see them walking around, and they all got all these beautiful mixed ass children. But yeah, Pete Wentz is black too. Okay, so just know that. Fall Out Boy was one of my favorite groups, and his mama is straight up black. She got edges. Okay, it's just he started dyeing his hair and wearing it flat iron. He wears it straight. But then, he got a kid with Jessica Simpson, and he ain't going to be claiming black. You know what I'm saying? That's Barry Gordy III right there. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's Barry Gordy III. They ain't about to be claiming it. So they have what they call the third generation rule, which is if you marry white and then your kid is mixed and then your mixed kid marries white, they claim them as white. But that was happening so much during slavery that they passed that thing called the one drop rule. So many mixed people, it was just the one drop rule. You know what I mean? Or they started saying, well, if your mama was a slave, you was a slave. That game, because so many mixed people, so many. I mean, that's really the basis and foundation of America. They need to quit playing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, definitely Lenny Kravitz. Thank you for mentioning Lenny. But Lenny looks black to me. You could tell Lenny Kravitz is black. You know what I'm saying? But Pete Wentz, you didn't know Pete Wentz was black. You didn't know Steven Tyler was black. You know what I'm saying? Lenny Kravitz's mama was on the Jeffersons. Like, he couldn't deny that one. Roxy Roker, she was a mainstream popular actress. He better not play. He better not try to play. Lisa Bonet too. Lisa Bonet, she never wasn't claiming she wasn't black though. You know what I'm saying? Lisa Bonet was on a black show playing a black daughter. She was playing Denise Huxtable. Alyssa Milano, she does look mixed. She's Italian. And if Italians was to keep it real, she's Sicilian actually. Most Sicilians, if they was to go back, everybody in Sicily was black. At one point, it's just everybody like having sex with each other. And they just be, making these beautiful ass mixed fucking children. They're gorgeous. Let me quit. I'm not the Smollets. That's right. But again, the Smollets never claimed nothing but black. Like I ain't never seen Journey Smollett not claim black. They look black. You know what I'm saying? But in another time, they could have probably passed for Jewish. They could have passed for Greek. They could have been like, no, I'm Greek. You know what I'm saying? Prince Harry's wife. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Meghan Markle, she could pass for white, but I wouldn't know she was black because I got black dark. Cree Summer, she's gorgeous. She's super black. Like she's mixed, but she claims her Indian heritage, her black heritage, and her white heritage. I love Cree Summer. She's such a great spirit. Shout out Cree Summer. Patrick Sargent, Hollywood loves black under the radar, even if they don't. Yeah, a lot of foundational things came from the black culture in Hollywood. Like there'd be no real thriving, dope ass, innovative fucking Hollywood or music or any of that shit in America if it wasn't, I wouldn't just say black, I would say black and white. You know what I'm saying? The white folks brought the business aspect, and they also brought the ripping off aspect, because they sure enough ripped off everybody, black and white. But yeah, they love us, man. And really, nobody knew. What's the dude that did Star Wars? Nobody knew his wife was black. Y'all didn't know. Y'all did not know. Quit playing. Most of them big time exec Jewish men, they love them a sister. They do. My sister. Tell me what that's about this. I'll try to listen. And look, I didn't know that either, really, until I was hanging out with them celebrity kids. Like I was hanging out with Kadada Jones, who's one of the baddest bitches ever. Okay, Quincy Jones' daughter. And I loved hanging out with her and all the other kids I was hanging out with. And she's mixed. Her mom is Peggy Lipton, right? And Quincy Jones had a litter of mixed little children. Most of Hollywood is mixed. Keep it really real. It's just they changed their name so you don't know they the kid of a celebrity. Even Alicia Keys, her last name ain't really Keys. I hope you know that. Her last name is not no motherfucking Alicia Keys. Her name is some whole other name because she really connected or related to somebody. But anyway, look at Pete Wentz again. Okay, Lenny Kravitz, he never tried to not claim black, so I can't, use him. You know who you'd be surprised is black, or not, I won't say is black, okay, but who has African ancestry in their blood? Have you seen that episode of that show where they do the DNA? Have you seen that episode with Ben Affleck? Did you see that one? Yeah, he found out his great-great-granny was black too. And check it out. They tried to keep it a secret, y'all. They tried to keep that shit a secret. They found some emails where the movie studio where he had some movie coming out. They hit up that show and was like, hey, can y'all keep that shit quiet? Like, don't bring that episode out, or can y'all edit that or some shit? Yeah, they didn't want us to know Ben Affleck got black directly in his blood. I mean, you can't see it. But again, that's why I was telling you about that 3-generation rule. They feel like by that 3rd generation, you ain't really got all that popping off in you. You know what I mean? You can't see it. It's in you, but it's just in you. So there was a whole push to have more mixed couples, even now. Like a lot of my friends have children of color. A lot of my white friends have brown children, And I'm not mad. I don't care. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad. Shit. You know what I'm saying? Whatever floats your boat. However, it was by design too. Even a lot of so-called racist men have mixed children. Remember Strom Thurmond? Strom Thurmond, if y'all don't know, he was like 90-something years old, still in Congress, talking about to keep the whites and the blacks separated. This nigga had a whole mixed child, okay, who was 60-something years old. I remember that on 60 Minutes. Yeah, Strom Thurmond. She looked just like him too. And they were like, how is Strom Thurmond this super racist segregationist, but he got mixed children? Well, they politics be separate, but they penis don't. You know what I'm saying? They love them a chocolate sister. So I learned that also because one of my family members lived in DC, and she used to tell me about how a lot of them Congress dudes and senator types, they would have women of the night, not always prostitutes, but just like escorts, would be black women. Yeah, they love them some black women. But yeah, back to Ben Affleck. So yeah, it's funny, right? Like the movie industry people tried to hush that up, though. They didn't want the public to know that Ben Affleck had black in him. That would probably make him more motherfucking popular if people knew Ben Affleck's great grandmother was black. You know what I'm saying? Not like her, you know, not like him less. Maybe white folks may have an issue with knowing that Ben Affleck is mixed, you know what I'm saying? But black people, he would be welcome to the motherfucking barbecue. For real, you know what I'm saying? Another one, Lonnie Anderson. Like a lot of people don't remember Lonnie Anderson. I'm about to put her picture up here. Pretty much anybody who was a blonde in Hollywood was really mixed. WKRP in Cincinnati. Yeah, Lonnie Anderson is from Texas, and I saw some old pictures of her. Now she'll admit, now that she's like 80, she'll admit that you know, she's really of mixed descent. Like, but she would have been what they call passe blanc back in the day. Actually, she did pass, didn't she? None of us knew she was mixed or black back in the day because she put that blonde hair and she got that nose job and she kept that Max Factor number 30 on. You feel me? Nobody knew motherfucking Lonnie Anderson is really mixed, but she really from. Here's an old picture. Here we go. That's an old one picture they left on the internet for us to see Lonnie Anderson before she changed a whole lot. But yeah, she was passe blanc. Like, even though they say Texas, you know, New Orleans is only 30 minutes away from Texas. So let's quit playing. You know, she's a passe blanc. Like, just like Johnny Cash's wife was black. But, you know, the people were so close-minded back then, they couldn't imagine that Johnny Cash would have a black wife. But they had her passing for white. But if you look at Johnny Cash's wife, she looked motherfucking black. Vivian, his first wife, she was black. But, you know, they tried to keep that like as if we didn't see that, though. They try to be like she's Italian or whatever the fuck, but like, come on now. Again, yet another from Texas. Now, he did end up marrying June Carter, but again, his first wife, she was blackity black. You know what I'm saying? When it was really taboo in the 1950s, you know what I mean? But they was calling her all kinds of Italian and all kinds of shit. You know what I'm saying? That's her. But we knew Black Dar. We got Black Dar. We know black when we see black. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I do. I could tell. I mean, I ain't never been, you know what I'm saying? And then I seen her hair when it was curled up just a little bit. You know what I mean? Clearly, you could tell she's black, y'all, right? Look at that hair. Exactly. Especially at the pool. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. That thick hair looked like a sister for sure. O.J. Simpson's first wife was definitely black. But what I'm saying is they didn't pass Johnny Cash's wife off as black because they thought that would, make his little country ass white listeners not like him anymore. And in the movie, look, they didn't even make Vivian black. How you gonna make Vivian not black in the movie? What kind of bullshit is that? You know, Johnny Cash's first wife was purely black. I think she was mixed. She was mixed. Johnny Cash's first wife was mixed, but she was still black. Fuck that. And she had edges. But you just gonna make her a white woman in the movie? How you doing that? How are you doing that? So this is what their kids look like. See, you wouldn't know Johnny Cash's white kids was mixed or what they would call quadroons today. You know, you wouldn't know that. You wouldn't know that Johnny Cash's children were even black. And that's what I'm talking about, that 3-generation rule. They figured by that 3rd generation. And that was happening a lot in America, a whole lot. Again, to the point where they created that 1-drop rule. And if your mama was a slave, you were slave bullshit, because it was just way too many mixed people. But I'm telling you, 75% of Americans, before they was even called Americans, they was colonists, was mixed. Yeah. So that's just a little history right there. Yeah, Vivian she was mixed. I'll say that. Her daddy was white. Her mama was black. But yeah, and they loved each other and they was together. And society wasn't claiming her as black. They was saying she was Italian or some shit. It's like, no, she wasn't, motherfuckers. Look at that. I mean, they pressed out them edges, but come on now. Clearly she's Negroid. And that's why a lot of times they kept pictures in black and white, because they did not want us to connect the dots on that. Now, jokingly, people used to try to clown Jimmy Carter again, I'll tell you, and say he was black anyways, because he really was always down with the people. Karen Parsons is definitely mixed, but she never claimed she was white, though. I'm talking about people who don't claim black, but clearly they're black. That's who I'm talking about. Like even Carol Channing. Remember Carol Channing? Yes, Carol Channing. Her daddy was straight up black, but she didn't admit that till she was 90 years old. You know what I'm saying? In her book, in her memoir, she was like, actually, bitches, I'm black. She didn't admit that to the world till she was 90 because she knew she was black, but she's saying she didn't tell people in Hollywood she was black till she was 90 years old. Because she said she didn't want them to put that stigma on her. Yeah, I seen a picture of her dad. Her dad looked like my dad. She was half Jewish, half black, like most of Hollywood. And she decided to pass. Okay. And you wouldn't be able to really tell, but if she didn't have that wig on, she got some curly ass hair under there. Yes. And she just kept it real like that. Now, here's a picture of her back in the day. But even then, she had a nose job. So, and y'all heard, they really finally revealing the fact that motherfucking Marilyn Monroe was actually Mexican. Did y'all hear about that? Look, see, there's an old picture of Carol Channing. Now, imagine her with a curly fro. That's before the nose job. You could kind of tell she's mixed if you're looking at it. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm talking about people who passed for white, not Karen Parsons or black people or mixed people who, like Halle Berry, who's just a stunning, beautiful sister. She would never try to pass for white. You know what I'm saying? Jasmine Guy, clearly she's mixed, but she ain't trying to pass for white. Whereas Carol Channing passed for white, even though her daddy was straight up Blizzak. If I could find a picture of him now, sometimes they don't have it on here, and sometimes they do. Here we go. Here's an old picture of Carol before the nose job. Okay, brushing her little mixed curly ass hair. Now you can really see it, right? Before the nose job. They all get the nose job. They all get the blonde hair. You know what I'm saying? Well, here's another one. Who is it? Diane Carroll. No, Dinah Shore. Dinah Shore was also passing. Passe Blanc. They used to say that all the time back then about Dinah Shore. You know what I'm saying? But they was passing. They didn't want to be stigma with only getting certain roles. Plus, they really, really light skinned. This is after, again, the nose job and the dyeing of their hair blonde and shit like that. Most blondes in Hollywood was mixed. That's what I really learned. They just didn't want the stigma. See, that's Dinah Shore. But you wouldn't know that was motherfucking Dinah Shore. Because she got 2 nose jobs and dyed her hair blonde and lost like 30 pounds. You wouldn't know. See what I'm saying? You know who else? What's that chick? The Girl Can't Help It. What's her name? The Girl Can't Help It. Let me see if I can find that movie. The Girl Can't Help It. Jane Mansfield was also mixed. Jane Mansfield was definitely, one of her parents was mixed. Jane Mansfield, one of her parents was mixed. Yep, with black. Yep. But they dyed her hair blonde. You know what I'm saying? They lose the 30 pounds. They keep the max factor on number 3 or whatever the fuck. And you don't know no better. But before Jane Mansfield dyed her hair blonde and shit, she had some thick ass, black ass hair from Philadelphia or Pittsburgh or somewhere. She's from Philly, somewhere over there. But she was determined to be a star. She wanted to be an actress. And she was gorgeous and super smart. Like she was like a scientist thinking type lady. She was like super smart. Let me see James Mansfield before the nose job. Let me see brown hair. Let me see if I can find a picture of Jane Mansfield before she did all the changing. You can't super tell in these pictures either, but yeah, her daddy was half and her mama was white. Yup. That ain't Jane Mansfield. You can't really tell after they do all that surgery and all that shit, but yeah, quite a lot of people. You know about Merle Oberon and all them. Yeah, the Merle Oberon, she was Indian and white, but she just passed for white. There's a lot of them. Rita Hayworth. Well, she was Mexican, but they make them get nose jobs. They make them dye their hair. You know, they get really skinny. And they put on the voice, you know. And that's where Berry Gordy got that shit from. You know, he made all of his artists talking at like higher pitch. He did that on purpose. I did a whole podcast on that. So y'all can go back in my scrolls and see where I'm talking about that. I actually call it the etymology of vocal voice tones or something like that. That's what it's called, the etymology of voice tones or something like that. And I go into the whole psychology Berry Gordy goes in with having all of his artists. Michael Jackson didn't really talk like that. I hope you know. That nigga had a deep ass voice. He sounded country as fuck. I've heard Michael Jackson's real voice before. He had a regular ass, sexy kind of black dude voice. His voice was deep. It wasn't deep like Prince deep, but it was deeper than "Hi Tito" and all that shit. That was fake. That was not real Michael Jackson voice. And if you really thought Michael sounded like that, Jackie didn't sound like that. Jermaine didn't really sound. Jermaine kept his voice kind of. Tito never did that shit. Marlon did it sometimes. Toward the end, Michael stopped doing that shit as much. If you paid attention, Michael wasn't really doing that "thank you" shit as much. Yeah, Michael had a cool ass voice and he had a deep country. He had a country ass accent too. Because even though they was from Gary, you know, the mama was from Alabama and daddy was from Alabama and all that. Yeah, that's a whole nother story because the Jackson's family is so fascinating. And I've actually had dinner with Mrs. Jackson. That was an honor. Back in 1997, she invited me over for dinner. That's a whole nother story for another day. You know, I got 1,000 motherfucking stories. But that's it for tonight, though. I just wanted to indicate the fact that Jimmy Carter, one of our best presidents we ever fucking had, ever. Super smart, super genius. He had great ideas. The country ain't been ran fucking right since he was president. I was really sad. To be honest, I was a child and I was conscious of Jimmy Carter and his spirit, even as a child. And I'm so thankful I got to hear him in person in Shreveport in 2015 or 2016? I can't remember. But rest in peace to Jimmy Carter. I really hope we get a Jimmy Carter type president again. Who had the qualities of a good heart, a good person who was down to earth. He basically was he lived to be 100 years old. He was a very blessed man. He was a blessed man. He lived to be 100 years old. He was the oldest living president we had. And he was just a very wise man. Again, I'll tell you, I might have recorded some of it, but he gave the speech that was, I was blown away because, first of all, he was 91 years old and he just still made so much sense. Like everything he said, was just like wisdom. He was very wise. So I hope these Obamas and thems and Trumps and thems actually took a moment to actually have a conversation with Jimmy Carter sometime in their lives and adopt some of anything he had to say, because he was brilliant. And I just wanted to give my respect to Jimmy Carter. I know he passed 3 weeks, December 29th, the night I performed at the Project Blowed in LA at the Los Globos, but he died that day. That's powerful. And that's all I had to say. Enough respect to Jimmy Carter. He lived to be 100. Berry Gordy still alive. Enough respect to Berry Gordy. You know, I know he did whatever he did, but he's still a groundbreaking genius who had Motown, brought out Michael Jackson, Marvin Gaye, and all like the most dopest pop and R&B music in the history of fucking music. You know what I'm saying? So much respect. And let me see what y'all saying over here. Hold on. Voice projection, huh? MJ's voice is really deep. Yes, it is. I've heard it. He had billions. Village. Let's see, Jimmy Carter. For the people, he really was. The good sometimes are young or under the radar. Yeah, but you know, Jimmy lived a clean life too. You know, he said the key to him and Rosalind, his wife, living having such a strong marriage was that they gave each other a lot of space. He said that. He said we give each other a lot of space, but when we come together, it's like a date time for us. We date each other. And that's what I said was my goal. I thought I was going to have that with my dumbass husband. I'm sorry to bring him up. I always bring him up. Yeah, but the goal was I want to date my mate. I want to have the energy of dating. Like, if you ever look at images of, let me show y'all some images of Jimmy Carter and Rosalind Carter. They was always giggly with each other. Always. Jimmy and Rosalind Carter, when you see them together, you could tell they really still had a crush on each other. They still liked each other. They kissed each other in public. You know what I mean? Because I noticed sometimes Melania don't be seeming like she want to even fucking kiss motherfucking Donald Trump. You feel me? She be looking like, don't touch me. I don't want to be touched by you. Whereas when you see pictures or images of Rosalind and Jimmy, you see this picture, you see it right here. They even kissing each other in the little picture right there. They always would kiss each other in public. They hold each other's hands. They hug each other. Look, he always got his hand in the same spot. You see that? Yeah, and they got together when they were really young too. He just knew. He was like love at first sight. I knew when I met Rosalind, like I wanted to be with her and stuff. You know what I'm saying? And they wrote each other letters and stuff when he was in the military. You know, it's just a beautiful thing. You know, it's just a beautiful thing. They were a cute little couple too. What'd you say? No birds in this space. Having their own life to live separate road. Yeah, they literally, they would go on vacations together. Like they would go on vacations together. But the rest of the time he was in doing, you know, had his own shit going and she had her own little life going. They wasn't codependent like that. They was codependent in the fact that they knew they were in love with each other and that they wanted to spend the rest of their lives together. But I can't say if they ever cheated or any of that shit. I don't know. But as far as I know, they were loyal to each other and they gave each other space and grace. They're good. It's good. Okay, play it. Yeah, okay. Don't twist them together. Okay. So I'm twisting my son's hair. He was just telling me what not to do. All right. So anyway, I think I'm done with this. Or as Roseanne would say, stick a fork in me. I think I'm done. Yeah, let's see this picture of Jimmy with his mama. Let's see that. He looked just like his mama too. His mama had some, as we call it, strong features. No disrespect to Lillian. She was a G. She was an OG. She made an amazing child. You know, he had siblings too, you know. Billy Carter. I remember Billy Carter in the press back then. Let's see if I can get that picture going right there. There's him. He loved his mama. He spent a lot of time with his mama too. A smart man, you know what I mean? But yeah, he's definitely not no pure white and all that shit they trying to push right now. Elon Musk dumbass. Because you got to think about it. Elon Musk came from a apartheid South African culture. You know, that whole thinking is sick. And, you know, I don't feel like he bringing that kind of sick energy here. We already had that. We already had apartheid, which is really denial. Because again, if white folks was just to dig just a little couple generations, 3, maybe 4 back, they would see that they had some type of black or Indian in them too. But I don't want to keep dwelling on that or talking about that. I want to get going because I do have to work in the morning. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. And you know what I do? Like, I really like when you guys share my my channel, click like. That's totally free, and it helps with the algorithms. It helps people find my channel and stuff like that. So thank you. I hope you click like, please, before you leave. And you can hit me up on Instagram. I'm on Instagram as the Tamiko Show. I'm on, or Tamiko Show, either one. If you'd like to help with my production, I would love that, because I do need help. I am, not to give y'all the woe is me, because I'm very thankful for my life. But it is just me. I don't get child support. I don't get stamps. I don't get nothing. I just take care of my kids by myself. And I'm okay with that. I don't want to put the men in the shitstem. Like, if they want to take care of their children, that's what they need to do. You know what I mean? But not because the government tell them to, because I don't need that messing up no shit either. You know, people be human. People make mistakes, and whatever they got to do, they're going to answer to the creator for their lack of whatever they not doing for their children. You know what I'm saying? But if you'd like to donate to Tamiko Show TV, Cash App is $ Tamiko Show TV. It just helps me pay for this goddamn computer. I got, woo! I gotta pay for it, child. But I'm gonna make it happen. God be looking out for us. All right, I'm not worried about it. I don't do this for the dough. I do this because I love sharing information. I think it's the teacher in me. I like teaching shit. I ain't even showed y'all the chemistry or the physics kind of stuff. Maybe I'll tap in, because those fires are still happening in California, and they're not even talking about that shit anymore, which is crazy. No, the fires are still going. Yep. And we ain't even get into that Altadena situation either. So I'm gonna have to do another current event like soon on that. And no, I'm not talking about Jay-Z and Beyonce and all that shit, because that's gonna come out. That's gonna pop. Like, whatever's popping with them, there's court situations coming up. It's just all kinds of shit coming on. You can become a member, maybe subscribe to my channel. That'd be beautiful. And bless you either way. All right. Thank you so much. Hey, I got a gang of content. I got a gang of interviews of all these different artists that were popular in hip hop in the 90s and early 2000s that I interviewed. Well, I won't even say interview. We had conversations. The one I did tonight was brilliant and beautiful, about Gil Scott-Heron, rest in peace. And I'm thankful for all the friends I have that are so talented and beautiful and smart, that are my friends. I'm like, God damn, y'all my friends? Y'all dope. Shit, I must be dope. All right. Well, on that note, I'm going to get on out of here. Y'all have a good night, okay? And let me see. Wait, hold on. You guys. Yes, everything hidden will be revealed. But that's what I'm saying. It's a waste of time for specifically Americans whose parents were here before the Industrial Revolution of the late 1800s, early 1900s. You definitely mixed. You got some kind of black in you, and all black people got some white in them. You got to know it. All right. Don't be fucking stupid. Ben Affleck, the only people who may not have directly black blood in them is the ones that came, again, like during the Industrial Revolution, that, remember, give me you're tired, you're poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free, the refuge of our whatever is short. My teacher made us memorize the whole thing that's written on the bottom of the Statue of Liberty when I was in 9th grade. They may not be mixed directly, you know what I mean? But by now they are, because everybody mixed. And in Australia too, it's the third generation rule. Like, they did that with the Aborigine. They didn't want the Aborigine blood to be taken over the whole little island of Australia. But all them British folks made children with those Aborigine men and women. You know what I'm saying? And then put them in foster care. Took the children away from their Aboriginal mothers, just like they did the indigenous people here, and then put them in white families or put them in boarding schools so they can get indoctrinated with the British Australian shit. It's deep. And you see me, you see my face. I'm not mixed, but my grandmother, like I said, my grandmother's mother was Indian and black, and her father was white. So there we go. We all mixed. And then all my Gilbert nigga cousins all marry white women. So there you go. And they're all beautiful and gorgeous. They look like me, just a little lighter with they got the soft hair. They got the little wavy hair. I got the folksy. I got the 4C hair. Oh, yes, I did. Oh, yes, I did. And then my children's father is Creole. His people is from Louisiana, and they beautiful too. One got light skin, so called. You know, I don't get into that much, but he got my nappy ass 4C hair. He got blonde nappy hair, and then my other son, he's more brown, but he got more of the mixedy type of texture hair. It's all crazy how genetics are. But anyway, black is future. Well, everybody recognizing that we're all cousins would be a great thing. Like I might write a song like that about how if you are really American, you would know that we are all motherfucking cousins. Now, Donald Trump, his people, they came from Germany or Slavia or somewhere. He ain't from here. He just one generation from being from Germany or wherever the fuck. You know what I'm saying? But again, the white folk who came here in the 1700s and all that shit, 1600, they probably ain't even white no more. They probably black. But if they kept their whiteness, they got some black cousins, just like the Thomas Jefferson people. Thomas Jefferson people, they got the black Jeffersons and the white Jeffersons. And that's what I was trying to tell y'all. My grandmother, right? She used to tell me we got the black McGowans and the white McGowans, and they would go to the same high school in Alabama, you know, and they all knew that they were cousins, but they didn't really socialize or affiliate like that, but they was fully aware of each other. And that's from them plantations, you know what I'm saying? Most of them people was messing around with the colored folk and vice versa. You know what I mean? So it's all fake and lies if they act like that ain't the truth. And then the ones who was passe blanc, well, they passing for white. And they just, I don't know if they don't know that their people is black because they probably never told them until they do a DNA test, and now they learn that they all Nigerian. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of these white folks like, oh my God, I'm 27% Nigerian. Oh yeah. You don't know why? Oh well, yeah, get over yourself. You know. And then I was told, like when I was traveling through Mississippi when I lived in Louisiana, because I got family in Mississippi too. Over half of Mississippi is mixed now. Over half of Mississippi. So it's like, let's quit playing. Let's quit playing, y'all. Let's quit playing. But ain't no front in the diaspora. Right. Let's quit playing in 2025, like to act like we don't know what's up. But all right, y'all. I'm gonna go. I still gotta twist this child's hair. So let me get out of here. Much love and respect. I hope you tune in soon. Hopefully, I'll have some more cool ass interviews this week or next weekend. And we'll keep it there. All right. Much love and respect. Don't forget to click like. Bless you all. Peace.